Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here. This is a movement and a podcast designed to give you the things that you need as a man, whether that's the tools or the resources or the guidance or the direction, whatever you need to step up in your family, in your business, in your community, your own personal life. I want to make sure I make those resources available. So we've got this podcast. We interview incredible men. We've been going for 6.5 years. I think we're at 45 million or something downloads. The number's crazy. We've done over 800 podcasts at this point. So I just want to thank you for being in this battle. I want to thank you for championing the cause of masculinity and let you know that we're not stopping or slowing down anytime soon. I've got something that I need to talk with you guys about today regarding leadership. I'm going to get to that in just a quick minute. But before I do, just want to give a shout out to my friends and show sponsors, Origin USA. These guys are making jiu-jitsu gis, rash guards, denim, boot. They're getting into hoodies. In fact, I've got the heavy hoodie on right now. This thing is heavy duty. It's got some unique features like a zip pocket in the front and the snap, and it's a heavy fabric to take care of us during these Maine winters. They're on, I think you can pre-order them right now. Again, that's originusa.com. Also, they just came out with their pre-workout. This is in their Jocko Fuels division. So they've got 3 flavors. I think they have the sour apple sniper. I believe I saw the whoop ass or whoop assault. I think it's actually called watermelon with Travis Mills. And they've got one other flavor. It might be Echo Charles's flavor, if I remember correctly. Mango Mayhem, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, they do have their pre-workout available. If you get their pre-workout, you get their heavy hoodie, you get their denim boots, whatever, use the code ORDER, ORDER at checkout to save some cash. Again, originusa.com. Use the code ORDER at checkout. All right, guys, we're going to be talking about leadership. This is one of the core tenets of masculinity, by the way. You know, you can see it on my hat if you're watching this on YouTube. It's protect, provide, preside. That preside component is synonymous with leadership. And so it's our obligation, our moral responsibility and duty to step up as leaders for ourselves, leaders in the walls of our businesses, in the walls of our home, outside in the community, and wherever we're showing up. And it's clear to me there is an absence of leadership on the society and cultural front, whether that's at work, whether that's our elected officials, even state and local officials. There's an absence of leadership. And I heard this the other day, and I wish I could tell you who I heard it from. I can't remember right offhand, but he had said that it's our job to lead in the absence of leadership. And how often have you been in scenarios where you're expecting somebody else to lead and nobody's stepping up, and so nothing ever gets done? And a lot of times what happens for us as men is we're sitting back and we're waiting because we don't have the title or we don't have the express authority to lead in the absence of leadership. And so we sit and we rest on our laurels and rest on our haunches and think that, you know, this is somebody else's arena. Guys, you don't need a title. You don't need the mantle. You don't need the promotion. You don't need to be tapped on the shoulder. You don't need to be knighted and told that you are now a leader and now you can act as a leader. You should be doing that first. And if there is no leadership available or no leadership around, or even if there's poor leadership, then it's on you to step up as a leader. And by the way, and this is not ironic, that the more that you step up first without that official leadership title, the more likely it is that at some point you will have the leadership title. But it isn't all about titles, guys. It isn't all about the notoriety and the fame and even the money that might come with you stepping up as a leader. It's about helping other people. It's about solving problems. It's about getting your people to a place they could not have imagined going on their own. And that's reward enough. Now, the other things will happen. You're going to make more money. You're going to be more well-known. You're going to achieve new goals and ambitions and desires. All of that will happen through leadership. But if you really want to step up as a leader, you want to become a leader and you want that specific title, for example, then lead first. The title will follow. Lead first, the title will follow. So let me break this down. And you might hear this and think, well, duh, that's a pretty easy framework. If it is, then why isn't everybody doing it? I'm going to give you a 3-part framework that will not fail as a leader. It will absolutely not fail. And you will be a champion for your cause. You will help people get to somewhere they could not have, again, imagined going on their own. And you will be looked upon as a leader. You will have more authority. You will have more credibility. You will have more influence, and people will follow you. So number one is that in any situation, in any environment, you should always be looking to identify problems. If you're at home, what needs to be taken care of? What needs to be done around the house? What little inefficiencies are there? Are you guys all scattered and nobody in the home is on the same page? That might be the same at work as well. Or at work, maybe there is a new way of doing things. Maybe the boss or the team leader doesn't know about this new app that just released that you heard about on some podcast. And so you can now introduce that app, which will help with efficiency, which will help with time management, which will save the company money and time and overhead. Okay, well, those are problems that you can begin to identify. And then the next step is for you to step into the solutions. So now you're going to start recognizing problems, and that's your job everywhere you go. Here's a better way of doing this. Here's a better way of doing that. Here's a thing or consideration for that. And you're also going to be flexing that creative muscle. Now, I will say this, you need to be cautious in giving unsolicited feedback, because that's the natural tendency when you're looking for problems, is that you're going to offer feedback everywhere you go because you see the inefficiencies in the work environment, in the home space, and you start offering this feedback. It might become a problem if you don't do it correctly, because now you're offering unsolicited feedback and it may become more of a nuisance or an annoyance than anything else. Another danger is that you move into step number 2, which is to identify solutions to these problems without fully understanding all of the ramifications of the problem itself. So it's very easy to look at something in the work environment and think, well, I have a solution to that. And you're looking at it from such a narrow window or such a narrow perspective that you don't see the broad general picture, and you miss something because you think you have the answer. So when you're looking for problems, you want to look at them broadly. It's very easy to get narrowed, to get focused, to have that tunnel vision. Be very cautious and very careful, because if you start presenting solutions based on your limited or narrow perspective, you might actually be teeing yourself up for failure. And again, you're going to become more of a nuisance or an annoyance, and potentially even a problem relative to what you were before when you were just doing your work. So don't let ego and pride and arrogance get in the way. You really have to come with the right motive. And if your true motive of identifying problems and offering solutions is to help your family, or to help your team, or to help your employer or your organization or company, then what you will do is you will back up and you will look at it from a broad perspective. You will get insight and information from other people that have things that you may not be aware of, so that you can round out your perspective. And that's what you want as you're looking for these solutions. Now, next, guys, is simply making the connections. Again, do this open. Don't give unsolicited feedback. Don't necessarily ram things down people's throats and say, this is the only way to do it. No, have a little class, have a little tact, and make the connections. So if your team at work is looking for a way to save in taxes, for example, and you happen to know a great CPA, well, there's a connection that you can make. Again, reach out to the person with the problem first, so you understand the entire dynamic before you start making recommendations, because they may or may not work based on what the entire picture is, not just the parts you can see. If it's a friend who happens to call you and he's trying to grow his business or his organization, or has a question about merchandise or how to start a podcast. And I'll give you an example. I had somebody reach out to me earlier today and they said, hey, I'm looking for a podcast editor. I'm starting a podcast and I need to make sure I have an editor locked in as we get going. Well, here's the beautiful thing. There's your problem. I didn't even have to identify the problem in that case. He came to me. Okay, so I'm going to make his problem my problem, because that's a friend, that's somebody I care about. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is look for solutions. Well, I have a podcast editor. His name's Chad Robson. He does a great job on this podcast. And I know that he's very professional. He's very timely, and he's going to do a great job. So Michael reached out to me. He needs a podcast editor. I have Chad. He's a podcast editor. I reached out to Chad. Chad, I've got somebody who's interested in having some podcasts edited. Are you interested? can you handle more? Are you interested in handling more? And he said, absolutely, I'd be interested in that. Boom, good. Now I win. That's leadership, guys. All right. I had influence with Michael because he reached out to me. So there was some leadership influence there. I've obviously got some level of leadership with Chad because he's working for me in the organization as it comes to editing our podcast. So there's leadership there. I've got a problem. I've got access to the solution. And the third point, make the connection. That's it. Guys, it's simple. We overlook this all too often. We think that there's some complex, complicated way of going about life and navigating all the little avenues and veins that you could explore. It's simple. And the more you simplify it, the more that I hope you'll actually implement it in your life. And I'll say this about the third component of this, making the connections. When I say making the connections, it might be a person like that example I just gave you, or it might be access to technology or an app or a product or a solution that isn't a person necessarily, but it will solve the problem, right? So make those connections. And the beauty of it is that you don't actually have to be the one all the time solving the problem, right? Like when Michael came to me and said, I need a podcast editor, I didn't say, I'm going to edit your podcast for you. That isn't a requirement. And it's actually not good. It's not good for him because I wouldn't do as great a job as Chad can do. It's not good for me because I don't have time to do that. And it's not good for Chad because he's missing out on an opportunity that he's uniquely qualified to do. So being a leader doesn't mean that you have to do everything. Being a leader means that everything has to get done. That's a shift that I've been making over the past several months from believing that I need to be the one doing everything. And it was stressful. It was inefficient. I was making less money. I was worn down. I was temperamental. I was getting after people. I was becoming a bit of a pessimist. And I realized through mentorship that, Ryan, you don't need to do it all. You just need to ensure it all gets done. And that's what a great leader will do. Here's the direction. Here's the problem. Here's where we want to go. Here's the pitfalls. Here's some solutions. Here's some answers. Here's people that might have answers. And then start plugging those solutions into the right places, bringing the right people on, having the right technology, all that kind of stuff. And the last thing I'll say to you, and this is kind of a bonus part of the framework. So we've got one, you're recognizing problems. Two is you're identifying solutions. And then three, you're making those connections. And point number 4, I would say, and this is just like a bonus here, is that you need to have your pulse on what's going on. There's a lot of guys who are uninformed. They're not aware of cultural events. They're not really tapped into the news or social media or technology. And we say things like, well, why would I be on Facebook because of this? And I hate technology because of that. And I understand the sentiment. Trust me. I understand the sentiment more than just about anybody else. But I'll tell you, if I don't have my pulse or the pulse on what's going on, I'm missing critical opportunities to be valuable in other people's lives. So yeah, you could retreat and you could withdraw and you could disengage from life and society and culture and all these other things. You could do that, or you could be involved and you could keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on so that you can actually provide solutions. There's a great passage in scripture that says we are instructed to be in the world, but not of it. And I think the same way when it comes to social media and it comes to technology and it comes to current events and cultural experiences that are happening, is I want to be aware of it. I want to be in the know. I want to be in the world, but not necessarily of it, meaning I don't want to be driven by it. I don't want it to define me. I don't want it to master me. I want to use these things as tools to help myself, to help the people I care about, and frankly, to help strangers that need help and need to be led and are looking for leadership. Now, here's the beauty, and I'll end with this, is that it's very frustrating when you expect there to be leadership around. You go to a work conference or you go into work, or your boss tells you have a new assignment, or you go into church and you're looking for direction, right? Isn't that what you're looking for? If you want to be led by other people, you're looking for some guidance, for some instruction, for some direction. And so it's very easy to become a pessimist. Well, my company didn't train me and this company didn't do that. And my wife is this and the economy is that and the president is this. And It's very, or my church congregation didn't do what I think they should do. It's very easy to do that. But guys, we as men are not looking for the easy path. And we're not necessarily looking for the hard path either, but we're willing to walk that path because we know that the path that's harder, although less traveled, is going to lead to greater results. So it is very easy to be pessimistic in the absence of leadership. But I want you to flip that on its head. And instead of bitching and moaning and griping and complaining and talking about how horrible your company is or how non-existent leadership is instead look at it as an opportunity. What a great thing that there's a void in leadership. What an amazing opportunity. Great. Nobody at work is giving you any guidance and direction. Beautiful. That represents an opportunity for you to step into that environment, make yourself known, make yourself valuable, and then reap the benefits that come with it. And there is nothing wrong with reaping the benefits of your hard work and effort. Sometimes people believe that, especially when it comes to money. And they'll even take things that I do for the Iron Council, for example, and they'll calculate how much it is a month and how many members we have. And then they'll calculate how much money I make a month. And they're all butthurt about, well, I can't believe you make this much money. Aren't you just doing this out of the goodness of your heart? Well, here's the thing, guys. Both can exist simultaneously. I can be doing this out of the goodness of my heart because I want to serve you and other men. And also I want to make money. Heaven forbid I put a roof over mine and my family's head. Heaven forbid I put food on the table. Heaven forbid I take a vacation. Heaven forbid I buy a product or a service or a good or a new vehicle or support a company that I really like. Why is that a bad thing? Why do we naturally believe that's at odds with something else? And so your interest, your self-interest in this case, to gain credibility, to build your influence and authority, to secure the promotion, maybe there's some selfish desires there, but okay. And as long as you're doing it with the intent of helping other people and your interests are aligned, meaning your desires are aligned with the desires of the people who would follow you, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. And not only do I not see anything wrong with that, I would encourage that. I would encourage you to align your personal interests with the interests of the people that you care about. And that's how you all win, when those interests are aligned. It's when they're not aligned, when they're at odds with each other, that it becomes an issue. So guys, let's not despair. Let's not gripe and moan and complain about the absence of leadership in your job or your career or in society in general. And let's celebrate the fact that our leadership is weak and they're cowardly and they're timid and they're non-existent. Great. More opportunity for me. More opportunity for me to step up and lead. And look, I know it's easy to say, well, I'm not going to lead until I get that promotion, or I'm not going to lead until I get that raise. That's backwards thinking, guys. That's backwards thinking. You think that if you continue to be a pawn, like you act, think about this for a second. Think about the players on a chessboard. And you're going to act like a pawn because nobody recognized you as a rook or a bishop or a knight or a king. So you're going to act like a pawn forever and think that just as you act as a pawn, the king will come and knight you on the shoulder and say, well, you've been a good little pawn. Let me make you a knight now. No, guys, that's not how life works. The way that it works, if we're using this analogy, is that you decide, I'm not going to be a pawn anymore, and I'm going to start acting like a knight. I'm going to start acting like a bishop. I'm going to start acting like a rook. I'm going to start acting like a king. And then people take notice. Even the pawns take notice. You step up and the pawns are like, oh, well, that guy is acting like a knight. He must be a knight. And so they start treating you like it. This is what I'm saying. Leadership comes before the title. The title is a manifestation of who you are. And we don't always get it right. We've had bad leaders. We've had bosses and team leaders and project managers who are weak in leadership. And so it's not a perfect science. It isn't always right. But over the long haul, I can guarantee that if you do the work of a leader, that inevitably and over time, you will be looked upon favorably as a leader, and you will get those titles, you will get that promotion, you will get the raise, your kids will listen to you, your wife will be led by you, and all of the other things that you want out of life. So do not despair. Leadership is lacking. Good. In the words of Jocko, that will give us an opportunity to lead where there is no other leadership available. All right, you guys, go out there, take action, become the leader that you're meant to be, and also become the man you're meant to be.